Good evening, everyone. I'm Susan Brody, and I'm the chair of the board of ADL Mountain States Region, and I welcome you all to ADL's 43rd annual Governor's Holocaust Remembrance Program. So thank you. And welcome to all of you joining us this evening from home on our live stream. For 43 years, ADL has worked together with each sitting Colorado governor to memorialize the victims of the Holocaust, to honor Holocaust survivors, and to pass on the lessons that we've learned. Tonight, you'll hear from our wonderful keynote speaker, Manny Lindenbaum, who will share his incredible story of survival, first escaping Berlin to Poland, and when things didn't look so good in Poland, then to London on the Kindertransport. Thank you, Manny, for traveling all the way here from New Jersey with your wonderful wife, Annabelle, and to be with us tonight. We're so looking forward to hearing your incredible story later on in the program. We've come together this evening in the spirit of ADL's mission to stop the defamation of the Jewish people and to secure justice and fair treatment to all. It was the governments of many countries who perpetrated the Holocaust. That's why it's especially gratifying, particularly at this time of alarmingly heightened anti-Semitism in the United States and all over the world, that Colorado Governor Jared Polis joins us tonight in a strong show of commitment that our government will not tolerate anti-Semitism and hate. And he arrived right on cue, okay. And in recognition of the need for remembrance and education about the Holocaust. We're especially grateful that today, on the last day of the legislative session, Governor Polis has made it a priority to be here with us this evening. It is now my pleasure to introduce you to Governor Jared Polis to share his message to Colorado.
Susan. Of course. Well, thank you, Susan. For 43 years, ADL Mountain States Region and the Governor's Office, long predating my governorship, although I think I bring particular pride as the first Jewish governor to collaborate with the ADL. Governors of all faiths have come together to commemorate, educate, honor the memory of those lost in the Holocaust, and of course, to reflect on the promise of never again. I want to thank ADL Board Chair Susan Brody, ADL Regional Director Scott Levin. I just got to briefly greet Manny Lindenbaum. Thank you for joining us as well. My home congregation of Har Hashem in Boulder recently hosted last weekend several Holocaust survivors. My son, who's in the B'nai Mitzvah class, attended one of those sessions. And I emphasize the importance to him of those personal connections with the survivors who have such moral clarity and power in their memories. And of course, the Temple Emanuel, 150 years old, my goodness. Congratulations and happy birthday. Some of you might know that the state of Colorado is nearing a very special birthday, our 150th, but not for 2 more years, 2026. Sesquicentennial, I learned that word because of Colorado's birthday. So happy sesquicentennial to Temple Emanuel as well. You know, this year has been a very difficult year. The promise of never again is as timely, is as pertinent, is as front and center in our minds as ever before. We cherish the opportunity to hear firsthand from Holocaust survivors, including Cantor Zachary Kuttner, Manny Lindenbaum here with us today. I think there might be some others as well. And of course, we're also painfully aware of the alarming increase in anti-Semitism that we're witnessing today, the hostages who still remain, those of them who continue to be alive, held by Hamas against their will. This year, we experienced the deadliest attack on the Jewish people since the Holocaust. ADL tracked an over 300% increase in anti-Semitic incidents, the people that were killed in the Hamas attacks. And in Judaism, we often talk about the importance of l'dor v'dor, from generation to generation. And key in that is sharing the value of never again. Of course, honoring the memories of those that we lost, seeking out opportunities to hear from survivors firsthand, educating ourselves and others, and translating into action in our individual lives, in civil society, with our neighbors, with our friends, in politics, to make sure that our children and our children's children don't have to know firsthand the painful realities of ancient hatreds, such as anti-Semitism. I was proud 4 years ago to sign into law Colorado's first Holocaust and genocide education law. Now all students in our public high schools learn about the horrors of the Holocaust and genocide. I also, a few months ago, in working with ADL, did a proclamation around against anti-Semitism here in the state of Colorado. And we continue to look forward to working with ADL and others to make sure that we combat anti-Semitism and bigotry in all their forms. All of us working together, informed, empowered by the memories, the collective memories of our people, but also, I know for so many families, memories of loved ones you might have known as a child, memories of those you've never met that you heard stories of. My husband, Marlon, lost a whole side of his family in the Holocaust. His great-grandmother, Dora, came to the United States. One of her sisters survived. She lost 3 brothers, a sister, her parents in the Holocaust, many cousins. I had distant cousins as well that we lost. But it is the memory of whether those that we knew of, we heard of, we remember as our own, and empower and inform our work every day to combat anti-Semitism and ensure that the promise of never again is a reality. And gatherings like this each year, including the Governor's Holocaust Remembrance Program, are so important to come together, to remember, and of course to recommit the promise of never again. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor Polis, for those very inspiring remarks. In addition to Governor Polis, we're grateful to have several public officials with us here tonight. All of you are leading us toward a more respectful and secure society. So will the public officials that are here with us this evening please stand so we can recognize you? At this time, I'd like to recognize the primary sponsors who have generously underwritten tonight's event. Michael and Debbie Feiner and the Feiner Family Foundation, GSR Fund, Inc. by the Rosenblum family, Jewish Colorado, the Lusher and Curtis Lusher families, Ruth Malman and Michael Opatowski, the MB Glassman Foundation, the MDC Richmond American Homes Foundation, and the University of Denver. And thank you to the Feiner Family Foundation for providing us with a selection of newly framed prints from the powerful Triumphant Spirit exhibition that you saw displayed in the lobby and in the social hall this evening. The photographs were taken by Nick Del Caso, who was moved to do so after an impromptu visit to the Dachau concentration camp in Germany. The exhibition represents an enduring legacy of Holocaust survivors who found their way to America's shores, created new lives, families, built businesses, many of which are in Colorado. And over the years, these survivors have become legends of hope and humanity. This historical body of work not only documents war and tragedy, but offers testimonials from Holocaust survivors who overcame astonishing odds to survive and thrive. Additionally, the Feiner Foundation has donated a copy of the Triumphant Spirit book featuring all of the photographs, along with texts written by Jewish Colorado Executive Director Renee Rockford, to tonight's featured speaker, and to each family member who attended our survivor community reception earlier this evening. If you would like to order a book online, please see your program for information on how to do that. So thank you so much to all of our sponsors. We're very appreciative to all the members of our Honorary Hosts Committee and to our many community partners, all of whom were displayed on the slideshow that you saw just before the program. Each member of ADL's dedicated regional staff has played a vital role in making tonight's event possible, including Regional Director Scott Levin. Oh, yeah, you can clap. Senior Associate Director and producer of tonight's program, Sue Parker Gerson. Senior Associate Director, Jeremy Shaver. Director of Education, Dan Cohen. Director of Development, Susie Moss. Associate Director of Development, Kara Schell. Regional Coordinator, Chloe Hodson. And Regional Intern, Nathaniel Fisher. And now I'd like to recognize our core of volunteers for tonight's event, including members and graduates of ADL's Robert B. Sturm Mountain States Young Leadership Program and several of our ADL Mountain States Regional Board members. Thank you especially to 2023 Sturm Fellow graduate Ross Glasser for single-handedly registering dozens of attendees for tonight's program by telephone. Special thanks also go to Leah Myler and Helen Starr, who are both children of Holocaust survivors, for helping us engage our community's second and third generation descendants, ensuring that the legacy of the survivor lives on through them and through all of us. Finally, thank you to Temple Emanuel and the Temple Emanuel audiovisual team. And now I would like to invite Temple Emanuel's rabbi, Senior Rabbi Joe Black, to the podium.
Shalom. On this solemn evening, we have come to this sacred space to bear witness, remember, and commit ourselves to the idea of honoring those who died in the horror of the Shoah, as well as hear the stories of those who survived. We at Temple Emanuel are honored to host this annual Governor's Holocaust commemoration once again. We welcome all into our sanctuary who are committed to the vision of a better world that was decimated by the horrors of the Third Reich and all who supported it. At a time in our history when we see echoes of a painful past rising around the world, in Gaza, on social media, on college campuses, spearheaded by an ideology of fundamentalist intolerance that is devoid of context, history, or subtlety, and the subsequent propaganda that inflames it in the hearts and minds of the ignorant, it is increasingly important to both clarify the meaning of genocide and condemn those who would abuse it for the sake of an evil agenda of hatred and terror. May our prayers and presence bear witness to the pain, horror, and necessity to remember. And may the words "never again" serve as a testimony to our determination to ensure that evil, intolerance, and bigotry are wiped out off the face of the earth. And let us find comfort in our gathering. And may God's presence serve as a salve for the ancient and modern wounds that we all feel here. Thank you again for being with us as we continue with this sacred commemoration.
Thank you, Rabbi Black. And now I would like to welcome Rabbi Colby Morris Dowry to the podium.
Shalom, Erev Tov, Chodesh Iyar Tov, and good evening, everyone. Sincere gratitude to our incredible Governor, Jared Polis, for continuing to host this important tradition for the Colorado community. Honor and appreciation to our partners and champions for justice at ADL Mountain States, and a special blessing of kavod, of honor, for your courage to our honored guest this evening, survivor Manny Lindenbaum. Thank you. As the governor just shared with us, we are a people that recognize Lador Vador from generation to generation. And so we call tonight on the spirits of our ancestors to be here with us this evening. We call on the memory of Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon, the son of King David, known for his deep wisdom, who, according to our Torah, built the temple in ancient Jerusalem, a spiritual center for the Jewish people and a beacon of light for all of humanity. I also call on the memory of another Shlomo, my spouse, Noam Dahari's grandfather, Saba Shlomo Kazes, Zichrono Livracha, may his memory be for a blessing. Shlomo Kazes was born in 1926 in Paris to a Jewish family. In 1940, when he was 14 years old, the Germans invaded Paris. In 1944, Shlomo and his family decided to hide under the neighbor's apartment and take on their identities as they left Paris. In 1945, Shlomo and his two sisters and cousins start to make secret plans to immigrate to Eretz Yisrael through their mostly secret Habonim youth movement. In 1946, they leave their parents behind. They get on an illegal immigrant ship called Sha'ar Yeshuv, and after a long voyage, they arrive in Haifa. There, the British do not allow the new immigrants to disembark. They are sent to Cyprus to a survivor camp. From there to Atlit, in Israel, to a transit camp. Welcome to Israel. In 1947, Shlomo arrives at Kibbutz Be'erot Yitzchak, near Gaza, and in 1948, Shlomo enlists in the Palmach, participates and fights in the War of Independence, and in the Palmach and later Tzahal, as you probably see on the slide behind me, Shlomo develops a relationship with David Ben-Gurion and continues to dedicate his life to building the state of Israel. Like Shlomo HaMelech, our Saba Shlomo also took part in building something monumental. As a Holocaust survivor, he could have easily drowned in the despair of his own victimhood and given up hope. But instead, he decided to transform his experience of the Holocaust nightmare into motivation for dreaming a new reality for our people. He made it one of the most important priorities of his lifetime to play a unique role in creating the Zionist dream. Using the words of the Israeli Declaration of Independence, undaunted by difficulties, restrictions, and dangers, these survivors never ceased to assert their right to a life of dignity, freedom, and honest toil in their national homeland. Shlomo embodied the notion that there is absolutely no way to separate the Jewish story from the Israeli story, and anyone who says otherwise needs to review history. He embodies the survivor, the rebuilder, the prayer that even out of the deepest destruction, it is possible to find the hope. I would like to invoke the spirit of one more Shlomo. In 1941, Iraqi Muslims, in alliance with the Nazis, launched the Farhud pogrom. Shlomo Mansour was a 3-year-old celebrating Shavuot with his family in Baghdad when a massacre ensued, during which hundreds of Jews were slaughtered and many more were raped and assaulted. This Shlomo's family thankfully survived, and the Mansour family joined over 100,000 other Iraqi Jews and moved to Israel. This Shlomo, at age 86, is the oldest hostage being held in captivity in Gaza right now, since Hamas terrorists took him from his home in Kibbutz Kisufim. We pray for the safe return of Shlomo and all of the rest of the hostages. We, the Jewish people, and all of humanity, find ourselves yet again navigating an incredibly dark time in our people's history. I am not one to compare or falsely equivocate the genocidal attack of October 7th to the Holocaust, because both deserve their own unique dark place in our history. But I have no doubt that these atrocities, similar to all of the others that stain our over 5,000-year history as a people, are sewed from the same cloth: baseless hatred of Jews. Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day, is always situated in the Jewish calendar a week before Yom HaZikaron, Israel's Remembrance Day for fallen soldiers and victims of terror. Yom HaZikaron is followed immediately by Yom HaAtzmaut, a celebration of Israel's independence. We follow the depths of destruction immediately by placing our gaze on the horizon towards hope and a Jewish vision for a better world. I ask that you join me in prayer. Mishaberach Avotenu ve'imotenu, may the one who blessed and sustained our ancestors through history's darkest moments, may you light the way for us now. May you instill in us a motivation for rebuilding something new, something incredible, something unforgettable. Amen.
Over the last several years, I've become very, very concerned and frightened by the significant increase in anti-Semitism around the world and certainly also in our own country.
When they said Jews will not replace us, that bothered me. And what bothered me even more, that there were no consequences to any of those people afterwards.
The public has to react. It's all dangerous. You have to speak out against it.
I hope some days people grow up and just throw away that bitterness and treat people, in each one, at the same level.
Skills used to survive in the Holocaust do indeed also apply in everyday life today.
The acts that I saw started with trivial, small items. There was a sign on the park bench that said, "This bench is not for Jews." It didn't take long for those acts to grow into gas chambers. The thing that I think society should learn is that bigotry, racial hatred can't be tolerated even at the very beginning.
I think you have to be informed what's going on, know your resources.
I survived, and the reason was that my parents had a close friends, a Christian family. Man of the family, Dr. Schultz, he was the chief judge in our city. He had information when they were going to come and pick up the Jewish people in town. And he had a way to inform us in advance. Later on, I figured it out over the years that there was a problem also on the part of the Jewish community. We were very insulated. We did not really understand the value of mingling with other people around us. And that was a big mistake.
Overall, the people from the world should care for each other. I don't care what domination you are. I care for humanity.
Beyond that, I think each and every one of us needs to take a stand. I also recommend to students I speak to that they attend town halls that are sponsored by Congresspeople and U.S. senators to make our voices heard.
We need more empathy in the world. The goal is to reach out and share our common values.
Well, my advice would be to our Jewish people in this country, please get out of your house and look for other people and befriend them. They are no different from us, and I think it would be a very healthy thing for us.
Whom you meet and you want to talk to them. Very important.
I have a lot of hope and a lot of faith in our country.
I feel pretty good about our future here. Even though with what's going on, we need to be aware of it. We need to be a little bit cautious. We need to keep our eyes and ears open.
I think we have to have hope. We've got some amazing people out there.
I am very glad that the Anti-Defamation League has stood up and confronted these hate groups that exist in our country.
We've got a lot of strengths in this community, in this country. So I recommend bring your talents and let's together work on this world and make it a better, safer place.
Hi, my name is Karen Flaxer, and I'm proud to be a co-chair of tonight's program and an ADL Mountain States board member. The interviews you just saw in the video were filmed back on March 3rd, 2020. We are grateful that our ADL board chair, Susan Brody, along with her production company, Family Legacies Videos, captured such moving and inspiring stories from some of our Colorado's Holocaust survivors, such as Ozzie Slottick, Roseanne Kirkle, as well as from those who are sadly no longer with us, Eric Hahn, Peter Ney, and Fanny Starr of blessed memory. Every survivor has a story, and it's important to know the truth of the horrors from the past, considering the current hate we face today. In a moment, we are going to light our regional's unique Holocaust Memorial candelabra. Its 6 candles represent over 6 million Jews whose lives were lost in the Holocaust. We also remember over 5 million others murdered because of their identities, and we also remember over 1,000 killed on October 7th. We recognize the impact of the Holocaust on those that, despite the efforts of the Nazi regime, survived the Shoah, as well as the impact on children and families of survivors and the impact on all of us. At this time, we invite any member of the Colorado survivor community that wishes to do so to please come up to the bema to take part in the candle lighting as you are able, including Cantor Kuttner, who will shortly chant the memorial prayer and join us on the bema. With the lighting of the candles, we rise awareness and remember all the victims of the Holocaust.
As we prepare for the memorial prayer that marks this hallowed evening, I'd ask that you refrain from applause. And at this time, I'd ask anyone that is a survivor who honors us with their presence here tonight, if the survivors would please stand and remain standing. If you can stand. And if you're the child of a Holocaust survivor, I would ask that you please stand as you are able and remain standing. And if you're a grandchild, a niece, a nephew, or otherwise related to someone who either survived or was lost in the Holocaust, please stand as you are able and remain standing. And finally, I ask that the rest of us stand as we are able in memory of those who were murdered. I'm especially pleased tonight that Cantor Zachary Kuttner will chant the El Mali Rachamim Memorial Prayer. Many of you know this, but Cantor Kuttner is himself a Holocaust survivor. And most poignantly, I want you to know that 79 years ago today, May 8th, 1945, was when Cantor Kuttner was liberated from Dachau. Cantor Kuttner, we welcome you to the Bema at this time. And for those of you in the audience, you can find the English translation of the El Male prayer in your program.
Eilem ulerachamim shochein b'hamromim hametzei menucha nechona al kanfei ashchina B'mahalois kedoyeshim odeharim kezawar harakiya at nishemais achayeno kol beis Yisrael anoshim v'noshim yeladim v'yelados shenehego v'nishketo v'nisrefo al kedushas Hashem Kedushas Am Yisrael B'mei HaShoah Ba'avo shekalako hol nadevo litzlako beyad hazikuras nishmoiseyam began Eden time and chosom lochein ba'al hu rachamim yasetiram B'seiser kedafav leyovolamim ויצרור בצרור החיים אס נשמויסיהם אדוני הו נחלתם וינוחו בשלום על משכבם ונאמר אמן.
No. Please be seated. Thank you, guys. $6 million. A number that is so large, it's almost inconceivable. So I ask you to join me in a little bit of a mind game. Imagine yourself going outside at nighttime, away from all the city lights. You know, you've been up in the mountains or out in a rural place before, and you've seen the stars from one horizon to the other. Astronomers tell us that under those optimal conditions, with the naked eye, you can see 6,000 stars. Amazing. But imagine in an instant that they're just snuffed out. The darkness that overcomes you and the feeling that you have when there is no light. Now take those 6,000 stars and multiply it times 1,000 to get to 6 million, and you'll recognize that across the entire earth that we'd be in darkness, and the feeling that we have when that occurs. That darkness is how we feel when we recognize that the figure 6 million is not just a statistic, but it's individuals. It's that author who wrote a book that will never be read, the composer who wrote a score that will never be heard. It's the scientist who wasn't allowed to live to discover that cure for a disease that still plagues us today. But it's also the grocer, the clerk, the teacher, the farmer. It's the neighbor. It's the friend. It's the lover. It's the husband, the wife, the parent. And unfortunately, it was 1,500,000 children. Children whose lives were snuffed out, like that light I had you imagine. Children who never got to live out their hopes and their dreams. It is that sorrow, that darkness that we feel when we contemplate that 6 million is not a number. 6 million are 6 million people's lives that were snuffed out. We take lessons from this time by the virtue of the fact that deep and dark sorrow we have tells us this can never, ever happen again. And friends, I don't need to tell you, we live in pretty dark times right now. Even before that terrible, horrible day when Hamas breached the existing ceasefire, even the day before that, on October 6th, I would tell you at the Anti-Defamation League, we were already measuring here in the United States historic levels of anti-Semitic incidents. And then, of course, when October 7th happened, the worst killing of Jews since the Holocaust, the number of anti-Semitic incidents has just shot up. It was so bad that we measured that there was a 140% increase in the country from 2022 to 2023. Here in Colorado, it was a 199% increase. And as the governor referred, after October 7th, it was well over 300% the increase that had gone on. You see, this anti-Semitism that people are expressing now is still those people on the right that are the white supremacists that have not let go of their tropes and their conspiracy theories and their lies. But now we have it on the left as well, the far left primarily, that is arguing that somehow they're justified in their angst against the state of Israel. But they don't understand that I, as a Jew, to me, the state of Israel is part of my identity. I admit to you and I admit to my rabbi that I don't want to make Aliyah. I'm not going to move to Israel and make that my home. But it is still part of who I am as a Jew because it's our eternal homeland. And it's part and parcel of who we are. And today what we're seeing, not just on college campuses, but we're seeing it in elementary, middle, and high schools. Not just on the streets, but we're seeing it in the office buildings. And unfortunately on the sides of some office buildings where people have taken to write their ugly and awful words. Not just on signs, but with chalk and on paint that's out there. We know that those are dark and challenging times because oftentimes people forget when it comes to the Jews that it's not their intent. Some of them might not know when they chant Free Palestine from the river to the sea, which river or which sea, but I as a Jew do, and the impact on me is that that's a call for an ethnic cleansing or a genocide of the Jewish people. That anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. But I also want you tonight to take strength from the survivors that join us. It's been said that sometimes just to live is an act of courage. And for them, they represent a resilience that we as Jews have felt for thousands of years, but they are the living expression of that. And it doesn't matter as a survivor whether, like the wonderful cantor Kuttner who sang so beautifully and so powerfully that memorial prayer, who stood before Mengele and was lucky because of how old he was, because he was a male, because he was a strong man, that he pointed the right direction and that he lived. Or like my friend Ozzy Sladek, who had to hide in the forests and the hills and inside of a cave, just always one step ahead of the Nazis and their allies. Or maybe you were fortunate, like you'll hear from our speaker, Manny, whose parents, can you imagine it, took their small child and put him on a kinder transport to send them to England, knowing that they weren't going to live, but he was. Or maybe you're like my friend Rabbi Black, whose mother, after Kristallnacht, her family knew what was coming, and they had the ability to get out. They're all survivors, all of you that have had to go through all of that. And what lessons you have to teach us, that strength, the fact that you have lived, that courage for which we're all so thankful and for which I believe the stars will again shine for all of us. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
Good evening. My name's Joanne Kleinstein, and I am a co-chair of tonight's program and a member of the ADL Mountain States Regional Board. I am proud to join Scott Levin, our regional director, and Dan Cohen, director of education, to present the 2024 awards for ADL's A Tribute to Moral Courage Standing Up Against Injustice Student Essay Contest. This program is supported for a third consecutive year by a committed, generous donor who believes that anti-bias education and building community begins with our youth, with thanks to their parents and educators. Using the Holocaust as a backdrop, our amazing student authors recognized individuals who took a strong stand on a specific issue based on their personal beliefs or convictions, regardless of the danger or threat to their personal safety. 11 judges had the difficult task of narrowing down to just 4 winners from 53 essays submitted from schools throughout the Mountain State region. The judges determined that these students stood out for their writing and research and for their personal reflections on how extraordinary examples of moral courage by individuals during the Holocaust and other times in history impact their own actions today. We also thank the participating educators for guiding their students to write, research, and reflect on their own lives through this process. We encourage everyone here to read the full essays that are on our website or scan the QR code on the flyer inserted in your program. As students receive their awards, please direct your attention to the accompanying slides with their name, school, grade, and essay title. Scott, Levin, and Dan Cohn will now present the students with their awards. I ask that each student come up when your name is called and that all students remain on the stage after you accept your award for some photographs. Our first place winner of the essay contest is Levi Harder. Levi is an 8th grade student at Peak to Peak Charter School in Lafayette. His winning essay is entitled Ruby Bridges and Her Morally Courageous Acts. Levi wrote, "Throughout my life, Ruby has personally influenced the actions I have taken. I think about the way she treated the protesters for their actions instead of treating them the same way they did her, and she stayed calm." Congratulations. Our second place winner is Giada Scarpelli. Giada is a 7th grade student at West Middle School in Greenwood Village. Her winning essay is entitled Our Freedom, and it's a far-reaching exploration of how women as a group have exhibited moral courage throughout the ages. Giada says, "When Elizabeth Stanton and Lucretia Mott fought for women to have the right to vote, that also meant they were fighting for women to have an impact on society and the right to control themselves, not have choices made for them. I try to honor these women every day by speaking up about the injustices of others and stopping discriminatory language or actions in their track." Congratulations. Our third place winner is Cruz Capobianco. He is not able to join us. He's a 7th grader at West Middle School in Greenwood Village. His winning essay, Bathing in Blood, highlights the heroic acts of Pino Lella, an Italian teenager who worked to rescue Jews escaping from the Holocaust. Cruz wrote, "Pino showed incredible moral courage when he agreed to help the innocent Jews, even though he risked his own life every time he helped someone. To me, moral courage means doing the right thing, even when no one is looking, and sacrificing yourself for what you believe in." Congratulations. And finally, receiving honorable mention is an essay by Ashkara Paidikondola. Come on up. Ashkara is a 7th grade student at STEM School Highlands Ranch. Her essay highlights the work of rescuer Irena Sendler, entitled Beneath the Shadows of Bravery. Akshara shared, like Irena Sendler, I will speak up against unfairness, knowing that true friends and family will always be there, supporting me no matter what. Their loyalty shows how strong our connection really is. Congratulations.
Hello, my name is Beth Yohe, and I am also an ADL Regional Board Member and a co-chair of tonight's event. It is my honor to introduce our featured speaker, Holocaust survivor Manny Lindenbaum. And I'll just say I had the unique honor of getting to spend time with Manny today, and his beautiful family. His wife and 2 granddaughters are here, and we went to a school and had a lovely lunch, and it was really just an honor to spend time with you. Manny was born in 1932 in Germany, but in 1938, he and his family were forced to flee to Poland. 1 year later, when he was just 7 years old, Manny's parents made the heartbreaking decision to entrust Manny and his older brother Sig, then 9, to a stranger who put them on the kinder transport to England 1 day before World War II began. A peace activist who's worked with refugees for many years, Manny has spoken to thousands of students and community members about their responsibility to change the world by speaking out about hatred and bigotry. Today, Manny remains active with the Hebrew Aid Immigration Society, or HIAS, an organization that helped him in 1938 and then again in 1946. Manny is married to Annabelle, his wife of 62 years, who, as I mentioned, is here, and they have 3 married children. Manny still loves participating in biking trips, and his favorite phrase is, "I'm a lucky Zeta." Manny currently serves on the Holocaust and Human Rights Education Center Speakers Bureau of Westchester, New York, with whom ADL worked to arrange Manny's visit to Colorado for tonight's program. Please join me in welcoming Manny to the podium.
Wow, thanks for inviting me. Thanks to the ADL to this fantastic program. In 1900, my grandfather lived in Galicia, in Dolina, Galicia, which is now called the Ukraine, where he was living. And they were not doing well. He had 5 children, was having a hard time making a living, and didn't feel that welcomed, and looked around the world to find a place where he would be welcomed, and he did find such a place. With his 5 children, he moved to Hanover in Germany, and he started a small business, was very welcomed by the Jewish community, was welcomed by the non-Jewish community, encountered no hatred, and was doing very well. Came World War I. One of his sons actually died in the German army, and they were in every way German Jews. German was their language. My father, one of those children, moved to the Ruhr Valley in Germany, near Dortmund, to a town called Unna. And again, there was a small Jewish community. They welcomed him with open arms. And my sister, who went to school where there were only 3 Jewish girls, usually had 10, 20 girls around her. And there was no feeling of hatred whatsoever. And then came the Great Depression. People were out of work. Things were getting worse and worse. The price of food was so high that it couldn't be afforded. And in a free and democratic election, this party, which promised to make Germany great again and promised to get rid of Niedermenschen, lower people, and they also promised that as they were Aryans, they wouldn't have people with disabilities and no communists. And with all these horrible things that they were promising, they were elected. Does that mean they were elected by everybody in Germany? Absolutely not. But they were elected. And things started getting very bad. My father had opened a small store and had many Christian families who were friends with us, but he had to put a J in the window of the store. And slowly, people who were our friends and my sister's friends, they didn't scream at us, they didn't do anything, but they slowly turned away. My brother, who was 2 years older than me, was getting beaten up in school every single day. And I remember that my mother went to the school and told the teacher he was getting beaten up in class, do something. And he lied. He said, there's nothing I can do. Because there were a few places that people did stand up. And it made all the difference in the world. I could mention a whole bunch of them, but the Greek island sticks out in my mind, where when the Germans came in and they demanded on the first island a list of all the Jews, and they got it from the mayor, and all those Jews were shipped off to get killed. In the second island, they were met by the archbishop and the mayor, and they said, this is a list of the Jews, and the only names on it was them. And on that island, the Jews 100% survived. They were not harassed, they were left alone. And there were a few other places, but all over, wherever they went, bystanders, bystanders, bystanders. I remember I wasn't allowed to go out in the street. I remember I must have been less than 6 years old, and I went to I saw a bunch of people down the road, and I ran there before my parents could stop me, and I got a beating because I'd gone to a Nazi rally. And things got worse and worse. 2 weeks before Kristallnacht, we got a notice that we had to report to the police station, and there were 17,000 of us across Germany whose grandparents had come from the East. They called us Ostjuden. And some people would ask, why didn't we get out of there? Well, the world was closed off. There was no place where we could go, and we certainly didn't have a car. There was no place to drive. And we didn't have money. But the British Empire had closed off everything. And so we had to report to the police station. We were allowed a small suitcase, and 10 marks, and that was it. But I remember we spent 36 hours at the railway station. And how does a 6-year-old remember that? Because when the sun went down on Friday night, my blind Zeta started the Friday night services, and I still remember that beautiful moment. The next day, when we got to the Polish border, to a town called Spongen, as we got off the train, people in wheelchairs, people who couldn't walk, my blind grandfather, my mother, my father, my sister, my brother, we were chased with guns and dogs to the border. When we got to the border, the Polish guards tried to keep us out, but we overwhelmed them. And then we were in Poland, and then a sight which I'm sorry to say you see in the news today, not this way, but in another way. Horses and carts came to help us, and what they did was they stole the small suitcases and put them on their wagon and took off. And we were left with nothing. We walked to the nearest town by the name of Spongen. It was about 5 miles away. And I have now heard so many horrible stories about people who returned from concentration camps and went to their hometowns in Poland and were killed when they went to get their property or just when they went back. We did not encounter any such hatred in Spongen. In Spongen, they let us sleep in the horse stables. They let people sleep in the streets. We found a burnt-out building 4 stories high, and 200 of us moved into that. We were there for 10 months, and during those 10 months, I was free to walk the streets. The local population did not harass us. And the German army was on the border, and there was a lot of agitation all over about what to do. The aid organizations who had come in, and one memory I have of the aid organizations of what in my 6-7-year-old memory was they bought us cloth bags so we could stop lying on the floor. We were able to put straw in the bags, which made a huge difference. And we had enough food. My Zeta, my blind Zeta, had gone to Warsaw to a Jewish home for the blind, and my sister had gone to an Ort village. And when the German army was on the border, and the attempt was to get us to Grodno, closer to Russia, we were at this very chaotic railway station, and this memory is very bright in my memory because being chased across the border, sleeping without water, toilets, or anything else, that was not a horror for me. I had my mother, father, and my brother and a friend. And so that was one thing. But at this railway station, my mother and father pushed me over to a stranger and ran to a train which was departing to Grodno. Herbert, my friend, started screaming and crying, and his mother, who really loved him, came and kissed and hugged him and took him with her. And 20 years later, I found out that Herbert and his mother had been killed in Auschwitz, and my parents, who I have difficulty to this day remembering because of the amount of anger I had that they abandoned me. saved my life. We spent 10 days crossing Poland with this man, and we stopped at Warsaw, where I got to see my Zeta for the last time, and I later found out he was also murdered. And then we went to the Ort village, where my sister was, and she joined us, and that was a joyous occasion for me until we got to Danzig to get on the very last boat out. And they told my sister, "You can't come." They said she's too old. They were 16 years old and she was only 14, but there was no they. One person said, "You can't come." I ran away. She found me, dragged me back, and held me down as they shaved the lice off my head, which I was very happy to keep. And we were on the Warszawa to England on the Kindertransport. The Kindertransport had saved 10,000 Jewish kids when 2 congressmen had introduced a bill in the United States Congress to save the lives of 20,000 children. When I did some research, I found statements like, "We're going to let 20,000 enemy aliens, and who knows how much havoc they're going to create," and it didn't happen. Although eventually 6 million children were killed, and something like 1,100 were found refuge in the United States, some including Herbert's brother and sister. And so we arrive in England, and as we are arriving, I am so angry. Nobody is able to even have anything to do with me. I'm not crying, I'm screaming. And the Kindertransport, the 10,000 kids were there. They had come from Austria, Czechoslovakia, and Germany, and they had been settled all over England. And when we got there, there was a few people. There was a Jewish family who had a son my brother's age, and they took him, and my brother spent the next 7 years going from Jewish family to Jewish homes. And me, who was the big troublemaker, was taken in by a Christian family who kept me for 24 hours. And it actually continued like that. But one of the reasons I tell this story is because for some miracle, there was always somebody who would reach out to me. And that was a lesson that I learned in my life. That when somebody is that angry and that upset, maybe what they need is what I got. I was taken to somebody's home for an hour and given some milk and cookies and a bath, because most of the homes that we were in did not have indoor plumbing. The fact is that England saved 10,000 Jewish kids. My friend was taken in by a farmer who wanted an unpaid worker, but his life was saved. And my cousin was taken in by a family that wanted a daughter. And she wrote letters back to family in Palestine, which I've seen copies of, where she was crying. They wanted to convert her. And she spent 2 miserable years, and then finally she stopped fighting. She ended up, I have a beautiful Scottish family, and I'm so happy that my children and grandchildren are in touch with the Scottish family, as we are to the ones who survived in Israel. The thing is, the lesson that I kept getting wherever I went, that the lesson was that I have to make a difference. My sister, who I remember every single day for over this 80 years, and she's up there, and I feel her presence, and I have to be able to look up and say why I am here and why she wasn't the one that survived. And I get my joy out of volunteering, and when I talk to kids, and I'm talking to you, that making a difference is the biggest joy in life. And how have I made a difference? Well, one thing was I was very active in a Holocaust Center, and I was speaking there. And as I was speaking, it occurred to me, I have to retrace my steps, and I have to go back to where my family was murdered. I later found out that my sister had reached my mother and father, and that the three of them had been murdered in Auschwitz. And I can never understand, how is it possible to kill a child, 1.5, even one child? How do you get your body to do that? It's not possible unless you incorporate that word that they used, Niedermensch, a lower form of life. And when I see anybody looking at somebody who's different than them and looking down on them, I tell them about that. Because the fact is, we have much more in common with everybody than we have differences. And to me, that was a horror. So anyway, I said, I'm going to take this, I'm going to return, and I'm not getting on no train, and I'm not getting on no bus. I'm going to do it by bicycle. And I quickly found out that it was going to be 1,700 miles, and that wasn't possible. We did do the last 200 miles by bicycle, and I have such fabulous memories of going to the synagogue where my Zeta was a member in Warsaw. I have such fabulous memories of going to the school where my sister was. And I remember I had one grandson, he came out with his hand bloody, and I said, what happened? He said, there was a swastika and on the concrete, and I had to get rid of it. And the thing is, on this, I called it Odyssey 76 because it was 76 years later. During this trip, we met such unbelievable people. My two granddaughters who are with me here joined my other grandchildren and friends, and I was looking at that point. I was looking for signs of hatred and anti-Semitism, and in the 28 days? In the 28 days, I only found 2 instances of one was at a place we stayed at, which was a horror because they had anti-Jewish pictures all over the place. And the other one was another hotel where they chased us out because they'd seen my picture. It must have been in the local paper to know what I was doing. But otherwise, people went out of their way to help. And there was one young man from my hometown in Unna who joined us for the last 2 days of our bicycle ride. And he wrote me a few years ago, this is the best time of my life because I'm working with refugees and in Germany. And he was the one who had us make a circle around him because he said, I have something to say. And he's saying, Shalom Chavarim to us. And he felt the pain. And I met a lot of, it used to be that when I met a German, my stomach would tighten up. And it doesn't matter where I met him. Then I went and I volunteered on kibbutz. And there were the children of Nazis who were volunteering, trying to come to some kind of reason. When I started a Holocaust center in my hometown, I had as a speaker Dan Barone, and what he was noted for, he got the grandchildren and children of Holocaust survivors and the grandchildren of Nazis together and found that the trauma continued on both sides. So I have no hatred for German people. My anger is at people who put other people down all over the world. And I was freed in a way from this feeling by not hating, because there is no reason to hate somebody because of what their parents done. The only thing we want from them is give us the recognition, teach it. And in Germany they do teach the Holocaust. My wife has been with me all through my life, and as I went from one thing to another, I had to keep volunteering because I had to, and there was my wife always volunteering with me. And when we volunteered for many things, including environmental, and when we were on the Hudson River to clean that up, we got involved with a sale to the Soviet Union, and what we did, we joined this peace sale, but we did it for the refuseniks who were in Russia, and when we got there, we were followed by the KGB, but we managed, they never bothered us, they just followed us, and at that point, I don't think we could have done that today. So when I speak to people, it's up to us to make a difference and to create a feeling not of hatred. Yes, I think that the people who committed the atrocities of killing 1,200 innocent people. By the way, quite a few of those people they killed were the ones who would go from their kibbutz to the border and pick up sick Arab kids and take them to local hospitals. And this is not my imagination. I actually know people who did that. And so, no, I think Israel, I am not able to tell Israel what they're supposed to be doing in Gaza. But on the other hand, I do cry for the Palestinians who are suffering. A Palestinian mother has the same pain when she sees her child killed or murdered as a Jew. And I have always worked. We have visited Arab villages in Israel, my wife and I, to speak to people, because in the end, we have to find a way to get along. But you can't, I'm not critical of what Israel's doing. I'm glad I'm not there making the decisions. I know my cousins' grandchildren in the IDF, when they spend time in Gaza. I know they have spent 90 days there, but I also know that they are working for peace and reconciliation in Israel. And anyway, thank you very much, ADL, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Manny, for sharing your remarkable story with us tonight. Your words will stay with all of us for a long time. We appreciate you so much. My name is Sue Parker Gerson, and I'm a Senior Associate Director of ADL's Mountain States region. For 11 years, I've had the honor and privilege of producing the Governor's Holocaust Remembrance program. Just 2 weeks ago, many of us sat at a Passover Seder, where we recited the story of the Exodus. The narrative begins with the Israelites captive, enslaved, and facing genocide at the hands of Pharaoh and the Egyptian taskmasters. We chant in a mournful tune, Vihi Sha'amda, Lavotenu Volanu. Vihi Sha'amda tells us what we already know, that it's not just one time that our enemies rose up to try and destroy us, it's in every generation that they do this. What's interesting to me is that the word amad, meaning to stand, to rise, is used in the passage to describe how our enemies rise up to attack us, but also explains how we, the Jewish community, rise up, not only to confront the hatred against us, but to support one another. We also know that we can't do this alone. We need and appreciate our allies for standing with us, especially in these fraught times. In the face of those that wish to do us harm, we must continue, all of us, to stand together, to stand strong, to bear witness, so that atrocities against the Jewish people across the ages are acknowledged, addressed, and loudly and consistently opposed. Thank you once again to my incredible colleagues, to our terrific program co-chairs, our program participants, our sponsors, volunteers, community partners, Manny, of course, and last but not least to our very generous host, Temple Emanuel. For more information about ADL's work and to read the winning student essays featured earlier, please consult your program and visit our website, mountainstates.adl.org. Thank you all for attending the 43rd Annual Governor's Holocaust Remembrance Program. Drive safely and good night.